series video. I know it's been a hot minute since I filmed one of these for you, so I am back. We are going to be doing a root touch-up on her, and this is a very simple color service, but it's something that I feel like it's really important to know how to do correctly because there are a few tips and tricks that we need to do to make sure that it goes right. So she has about a level 7-8 natural regrowth, so she's pretty light naturally, and we dye her hair down to a level 4. So I'm going to show you what I'll use to mix up for her hair, what I'm going to do. She has quite a bit of regrowth, so she is ready to get this taken care of. So if you guys are interested in watching how I do this, stay tuned. Okay, so now we are going to be mixing up her color formulation, and if you guys watched my color theory video a few videos back, you will remember me talking about how sometimes blonde hair can appear gray when it's darker, and you need to treat it like gray hair because it has no pigment. So she is naturally a level 8, I would say, maybe a level 7, but because she's so light, I know her hair, I've done it a million times, it doesn't hold color very well, especially in the root area. It always fades, washes out, so I'm going to treat it like it's gray. So I'm going to be using Redken Chromatics 4NN, and I'm doing a double pigment because it's going to be a little stronger and it's going to penetrate her cuticle a little more so that it holds this time. Okay, since I'm just doing a root touch-up on her, I don't need to mix up a ton of color. So I just did 20 grams of the color, and this is Redken Chromatics, and I'm going to be using 20 volume with their developer. Redken Chromatics, I feel is important to use their brand of developer with their color. There are a few color lines that I'm like, you don't need to, you can use a generic developer, but there are a few color lines that you kind of need to follow the rules. So I am just gonna go in and add 20 grams of the developer so that it's equal parts. And I like to mix my color and my bleach with a whisk. I feel like mixing anything with a whisk makes it more workable, smoother, it feels better, it looks better, it's easier to work with, so I always mix with a whisk. And I am using 20 volume because I want to open her cuticle up a little more and get that color to really go into the cuticle rather than just stain it like a 10 volume or a demi would. So I am using 20 volume equal parts with 4NN, and now that she's all mixed up, let's go put this on her hair. Okay, so as you can see right here, I have her parted off. So I did a T-part with 2 sides right here in the front and then 2 sides in the back. And then I have a rectangular box right around her face, so there are 5 partings total. And the key to a really good root retouch is very clean, even partings. I truly believe in that. You need to part your client off, make sure it's very clean, you apply it clean. That is going to be the key. Okay, so before I start coloring my client's hair, I'm going to be putting a barrier cream around her face. And this is just going to prevent the color from staining her skin. And they sell barrier creams at the beauty supply, but to be honest, I just like to use Vaseline because it's the most efficient thing and it's really cheap, so it's gonna work just as good as barrier cream would. And I'm just going to apply that around her hairline. So there's just going to be barrier cream around her hairline, and then I always like to do it a little bit on the ear as well. Okay, now that that's all applied, we are ready to get going. So when I do root retouches, I take it one section at a time, and I just go around the outline of that part first. And now that that's all outlined, I'm just going to take it little section by little section. Okay, so I'm just taking really fine sections. This is the key to making sure that every single hair gets colored efficiently. So think of this as baby lights for root retouches, just very fine, simple, small partings. So I'm just working my way up the back of the head in these small sections, and I am working horizontally first. Okay, so now that that's all done, I have all of her roots covered. I am going to go through and cross-check my work. So since I was working horizontally going up, I am now going to take it vertically and go this way and just saturate all of her roots, now going the opposite direction. And then sometimes I'll even take it this way and do the same thing on a diagonal. So I'll start from that corner and just work diagonally down the hair. And this is just going to ensure that I'm getting every single piece of her hair. We don't want any splotches in the roots. We don't want anything to go unmissed. This is especially important when you're working with gray coverage clients because they expect their gray to be 100% covered. So now I feel really secure that any angle I pull her hair out, her roots are going to be covered. There is not a single spot that I missed, and I can move on to the next section. Okay, so now I'm to the front of the head, and I'm just going to be doing the same thing, outlining the perimeter of that section. So it's really important when you're getting your brush full of product that you don't go in with all of this and flood the root. Make sure that you tap it off on your bowl and then go in. Just because it's a root retouch, we don't need to put a ton of product on the root. And now that that perimeter is outlined, I'm actually going to start at the top and work my way down. And the reason being is it's more comfortable for the ear when we get down to that section, and I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. And I'm just taking thin, even sections once again. And use your discretion on how much root your client needs to have covered. She really only had about an inch of regrowth, but she did have some fading and banding right underneath. So if you can tell right here, about an inch of regrowth, but then her hair fades right here and then it gets darker. And when I'm doing this, I go on this side and then I brush up against this side as well, just to make sure that I'm getting both sides of what I'm doing. And so now that we're getting down closer to the ear, it's going to be a lot more comfortable for her because I can take her hair and flip it upwards and color it this way, rather than trying to go over her ear like this. And if we had started at the bottom, that would be the case. And make sure you use very small sections when doing this, because if you take too big of sections, it's not going to work and it's not going to cover. So now you can see I'm just going all above the ear to get those roots. And now that we are all completed, I'm going to go through and cross-check again. And then now that we have the barrier cream on there, you can see the color didn't touch her ear at all. And if it did, I'm just taking a little towel and wiping it away, and see how easy that comes off because of the barrier cream. So now she can process comfortably and not worry about it staining her face. Okay, so now I'm going to be doing this rectangular section, and this is her hairline, so it's probably the most important part of her hair. And I'm just outlining that again, and then taking small sections and working backwards. And I'm gonna start at the back and do the same thing I did on the side of the head and work backwards, so that way when I get to this section, everything's directed backward. Okay, so now I'm just taking my wide tooth sand via comb and I'm combing it all together. And this is just gonna kind of smush the color in, make sure it's all saturated. It's kind of the same idea as when you comb a root smudge in at the bowl. And I just wanted to show you guys underneath here. I didn't put barrier cream under here for a reason. I wanted to show you. I was still very clean, but look, you can see that it stained her neck. It's a little darker. And then where I did put barrier cream, it's very clean. So make sure that you do put barrier cream around the whole hairline, including the neck, just because it's going to be more comfortable for your client if you do that. So now that she is all done getting her roots done, I am going to be taking my Olaplex number 2, and I am going to let her ends sit in this little treatment while her roots are processing. I like to do this for my clients because it's a nice little service that you can give them while their roots are processing. It keeps their ends shiny and healthy, and it's going to be giving her that extra protection while her roots are sitting there in the color. And she's dark, so her hair is actually pretty healthy, but she does have some dry split ends. So this little treatment is going to help her kind of repair those split ends, and I will recommend to her that she does it once a week on her own. So I'm just going to do this while she processes, twist it into a cute little bun, so that way she just doesn't feel hideous while she's getting her hair done. Her hair actually looks nice. And we are going to let her sit for about 35 to 45 minutes, and then we're gonna rinse her out. So if you do get color on your client's face, it's always important to have dye remover pads. So if I did get color right here, I would just take these little pads, and as soon as I was done applying her color, I would go around her hairline. Your clients need to know that their makeup may get taken off in this process, but it's okay. So I'll just go around wherever I see color, especially in the neck where I didn't put the cream. I'm going to go through and just take my little dye pad and wipe it off. I think it's really important to do this because you don't want your client sitting in the chair in the mirror for 30 minutes looking at themselves with color all over their face and thinking that you're this sloppy hairdresser. It's really important to come across as clean at all times because your clients will really appreciate that, because if your client had like a meeting or something to go to after and their whole forehead was stained black, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't be happy. Okay, so I set my timer for 35 minutes, and my rule of thumb with developers is add 15 minutes to the developer you used. So for example, I used 20 volume on her hair, so if you add 15 minutes to that, it's 35 minutes. So if I had used 10 volume, I would let her process for 25 minutes, 30 volume, 45 minutes, 40 volume, 55 minutes. That's just kind of what I learned in hair school and what I have found really works well when working with permanent color. Okay, so it's been about 35 minutes, so now we are ready to rinse her root color out. And since she has Olaplex on the ends, what I'm going to do is just rinse that off. And now what I'm going to do is, since this was just a root retouch and not an all over color, I'm going to glaze her ends and give her a little bit of shine and gloss. And you can do this with a number of things. Right here I am using Shades EQ 4NB. This is just like a really warm level 4, but it won't oxidize down to a level 4 because it's just a Shades EQ toner. But this is just going to refresh her ends a little bit, make her whole hair color feel refreshed even though we didn't do an all over color. So I'm just gonna work that in and swish it around in her hair and let that sit for a couple of minutes. If you had a client who was blonde or a little lighter than this, you can just use whatever level they are in Shades EQ because they have a really good range just to freshen up their color. But if you feel like they don't need an actual color glaze, you can always do a clear gloss. A lot of color lines carry them, and Shades EQ has one. I think it's Zero Clear. So you can always use that too, and that will just give their hair a little bit of a shine and a gloss and a protective layer. So we could do that, or we could do what I'm doing here. Okay, so now I am just rinsing her out. And you want to make sure that the water is lukewarm when rinsing out color. You don't want it to be too hot because hot color will fade the color you just did. And you don't want it to be too cold either because that's uncomfortable for your client. So I just like to go through and work my fingers through as I'm rinsing just to make sure that product's coming up and rinsing out. And this is really important when doing color because you want to make sure that your client feels like they don't have color residue in their hair when they leave. And a lot of time with root retouches, permanent color does stick in there pretty good. And you want to make sure you're getting it all out. So make sure you lift up their head, and especially make sure you're getting it out on the nape and the neck. Okay, so I do this for all of my clients, especially my blondes. I use the Kevin Murphy Maxi Wash, and this is a detox wash, and I just like to work it through the hair. Once all of the product is rinsed out, I do my first wash with this. And sometimes with root retouches, if they have a lot of product on their hair, like dry shampoo or root spray or just any product they've been doing, sometimes if I know it's a client that has a lot of product in their hair, I will bring them to the bowl and do a detox wash before I do their color. And that's just to make sure that we strip their hair of any product and impurities, because sometimes if you apply product over dry shampoo or other products, it's not going to take, and that buildup is going to cause a barrier so your color doesn't go as dark as you think it will. So sometimes I will do that before, but in this case I'm just doing one wash with the Maxi Wash, and then I'm going to wash her with the Hydrate Me Kevin Murphy and rinse her with the Hydrate Me Rinse. We don't need to do a deep conditioning treatment because we had her in the Olaplex treatment while she was processing. Now we are just going to be giving my client a health trim, and what that means is we are just taking off as much as she needs to make her hair feel healthy again, and that's what she instructed me to do. So if this was the case with a client, you don't want to be like, oh, okay, I'm going to cut off this much because that's how much you need. You want to make sure that they understand how much it's going to be. So I'm going to evaluate her hair, and I see that it starts thinning around here. And I did look at her hair before, and I feel like she needs about 2 inches. So I'm going to ask my client, are you okay with 2 inches?
Yes.
Yes. So I am going to take that and cut right there. And you can already tell that getting those ends off makes her hair feel fuller, healthier, thicker, stronger. Sometimes that's all they need to make their hair feel good again. So I am just going to over direct all of this hair back and knead it to my guideline right here. And I'm just doing small sections, making sure that the hair is combed very flat against the head, no elevation. And the products that I used in her hair before this are acting as a cutting lotion for me, so it's making it really easy to comb through and work through. Okay, and now that I have over directed everything to the back, I'm gonna bring the hair forward. I'm gonna part down the middle and the back and comb the hair across the shoulder. And I like to go on every angle. So I did the back, now I'm gonna come over to the side, and you can see that naturally her front is getting longer because we over directed it to the back. So now when we bring it around the shoulder, it's even, and now I'm going to bring it around in front of the shoulder. Look straight ahead for me. And always make sure your client's looking straight ahead and their legs aren't crossed. And you can see that we have a corner right here, so I'm just gonna take that corner. A lot of times clients are scared to lose hair. I mean, 2 inches sounds like a lot to someone who's trying to grow their hair out, but in the end, it makes their hair appear longer and healthier. So it's definitely a good thing when you're trying to grow your hair out, so make sure your client understands that it's for the best. Okay, so now that I have her hair trimmed, I am going to go through and just cross-check it. So I like to take these 2 sides and meet them in the middle and then just work my way towards the back of her hair, doing that same thing with each section. And as long as the ends are matching up, then you should be good. If you feel like anything's a little longer, then you'll know that's what you need to work on. But for the most part, she's looking pretty good. And you can kind of get a feel too, just feeling her hair like this. And then I like to just kind of do the baseline while she's wet, and then when she's dry, I'll go through and fine tune it. And just keep in mind that when you're doing a health trim or just a trim in general, it doesn't just mean that the baseline needs to be cut. Sometimes they do have damage up throughout here. She's very lucky because her layers are all grown out. She has one length all the way down. So I don't necessarily need to go through and refreshen her layers. Okay, you guys, we are all done with her hair. Look how amazing it is. Her roots are now touched up. They look fabulous. Her hair is now one color. We did do a nice little blowout on her, and I filmed a video for it. So if you guys see 2 videos that look very similar, it's because I killed 2 birds with 1 stone today. So if you want to watch that other video, it will be coming soon. I'm going to release this root color first, and then I'm going to be doing a blow dry, amazing blowout, how to achieve that blowout video. So stay tuned if you would like to see that. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you have any tips or tricks for root touches yourself and for trims or anything like that, let me know. Thank you so much for watching, you guys, and I'll catch you on my next video.